The Graduate. What a great movie. And who knew they were talking about bagpipes? The plastification of pipes. We'll have a look at that, where it started, practice chanters, getting into small pipes, and then we'll compare some of the chanter reeds available for the Great Highland Bagpipes and come up with a little recommendation at the end. So piping has changed so much. Oral tradition, then to a written tradition, then to a recorded tradition, then cassette tapes, CDs, MP3s, and pretty much online now. So there's been a steady progression. Same with pipes. The original woods were replaced with blackwood. The blackwood has been replaced with plastic. The ivory mounts have been replaced with plastic. The cane reeds and the drones have been replaced with plastic. The hide bags have been replaced with laminates and now Gore-Tex. You can still get hide, of course, but so much has changed. So I was at a piping school a year ago, and the great Willie Mclaren was there.
Be good. Is there anything that any of you have you'd really like to do or learn about?
And I asked him, do you see chanter reeds for bagpipes being replaced from cane to plastic? And being such a famous world-class piper, I expected him to blow that off and say, that's crap, as they would say in Scotland. But in fact, he said, seriously, within a year, we'll have achieved that threshold. And I was like, wow, that's pretty amazing. So I got 3 manufacturers of synthetic chanter reeds, and I'm going to compare them against the standard cane, Spanish cane reeds. We'll have a look, and hopefully the sound quality is clear enough on this recording and the YouTube compression and all the other stuff that goes on that you can tell the difference as well. But I'm going to go head to head here in terms of how easily they get set up, comparison of the hands, the high hand, the low hand, how they sound in the tune without the drones on, so we get a real clear sound of the chanter reed itself. How hard they are to blow. You can literally dial these in terms of soft reeds or hard reeds, and there's no breaking in period on these reeds. They just go like that. The nice thing about them is that they're almost temperature insensitive. If it's cold and outside and you're doing a gig, a parade, a wedding, a funeral, and you've been standing for 15-20 minutes after tuning up, waiting for your time, these reeds kick in just like that. And so there's a certain functionality that's a big advantage to these reeds, and they last a long time. They're very delicate, just like a cane reed. You don't want to ever bump them because they're quite brittle. We'll have a little look at that as well here. So we'll, I think, hopefully have a really good head-to-head comparison of the sound and desirability of a synthetic chanter reed. Chanters can come in all kinds. Nobody seems to get fussed if they're made of plastic or wood, or I've seen aluminum. But now you can get electronic ones, of course, many types. In fact, I reviewed several of them on a other YouTube video that I'll put a link in the bottom. You can listen to them with headphones or through a speaker. So I have the Blair digital chanter here for practicing. Traveling or at home, you don't want to disturb anybody, they're great. Just plug in a set of earphones or headphones. The sound is fantastic. And there's many settings here. There's a metronome built in. I can adjust individual drones. But let's just change the sound to Smallpipes. Highland Bagpipes. Morrison designed, Mclaren made Smallpipes, blackwood, with easy drone, synthetic drone reeds inside here. The chanter is wood, blackwood, with a cane drone or cane chanter reed within it. So this is a full wood setup except for the synthetic drone reeds.
are Walsh Smallpipes, and they are entirely made of plastic, 100%. A little bit of brass, I guess. Plastic drone reeds in here. The stocks on the drones are polypenco or Delrin. It's a high density plastic. Chanter is plastic. The blow stick, of course, is plastic. If I pull the chanter out, it has a plastic, that soft white plastic, kind of yogurt containery stuff. It's very reliable, handles moisture well. Drones just tune up in an instant. And now mind you, because I am blowing, they do change tuning. And that's again the beauty of plastic drone and chanter reeds, is the reliability and the ease of not worrying about temperature and moisture. So I have a Mclaren chanter here. I'm going to be comparing it against a soft to medium cane reed, medium hard cane reed. The Surefire, as it's called, synthetic. You see right away how much smaller it is, and it almost looks like a chanter reed. The Mclaren reed, and then the Clan Rye reeds, and they come in 3 flavors. There's a soft, which is the yellow dot, a medium hardness, which is the red, and a hard chanter reed. We'll find out, is there a big difference in sound between these. Right away you see that these are much smaller than a cane reed, narrower, and they sort of have that plastic fiberglass look about them. These ones look like, very much like chanter reeds. They have that kind of white, thin plastic, like a yogurt container kind of feel about them. Sound. Just initially from a craw point of view, you know, the sounds that a good reed makes when you blow into it to test it. Let's just have a little blow on this. That has a nice craw sound distribution. We'll try the medium hard. A little higher frequency. These haven't been moistened at all, so they're going to be a little bit tougher than the Surefire. Quite a bit difference, and it doesn't have the broad distribution of sound on it. The Mclaren, very similar to the Surefire. Again, a very singular sound. The Clan Rye Yellow, high sound. It's almost like a bird call, like a dog whistle. A little bit lower pitched on the red Clan Rye, and on the blue Clan Rye. Quickly, I'm not going to be retaping the chanter holes for each individual one. That would take a long time for me to do. So, I'm taking each reed, and I'm going to set it in the chanter and try out each set with the same tune. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to test how hard it is to play these reeds. They're rated at different hardnesses, and one of the attractions of these reeds is, are they suitable for beginners and intermediate players? I can see where, you know, a high-level competing piper is going to maximize every opportunity for great sound that she can. And that would be, you know, if the cane gives you the advantage, or a type of chanter gives you the advantage, or a type of bag gives you the advantage, the drone reeds, you're looking for that really full sweet spot. This video is really for the beginner to intermediate piper who wants to have an easy playing instrument so they can learn the music well without getting completely shagged out because they're playing rock hard reeds or they're struggling to get a sound that's consistent. To cork off these drones, and this one here is going to be connected to a device called a bagpipe manometer, which measures how much air pressure is being required to charge the chanter reed. The chanter reed obviously operates at a higher pressure than the drone reeds, because when you play, you kick in the drone reeds, and then you strike the drone reeds, and then you blow the chanter. Because really the purpose of a synthetic reed not only is something that's quite reliable outside in various temperatures and humidity, but something that is of a consistent quality in terms of ease of play. Maybe you don't want to go through the long process and difficult process sometimes of breaking in a brand new pipe reed.
particularly if you've got a gig coming up and you have to play that thing right now, and maybe for 20 minutes or half an hour. It requires a lot of blowing. So let's have a look with that manometer plugged into the top of the drone.
So I've got these two drones corked off, and here's my manometer set up. Now I'm going to plug that into the third drone, so that will register the pressure as I blow into these, and you won't hear any drone sounds at all, but you will see the manometer moving, and I won't be watching the manometer, so that any up and down movement will be my unsteady playing. What you hopefully will also see is that the higher notes take more air pressure than the lower notes. So it's important as a piper to be aware of the amount of variability that's required in the pressure to maintain the tune properly.
Don't get hung up on the scale being slightly out here in terms of the chanter. I have not taped this particular chanter. This is my sort of backup one for my normal pipes. But it's really more to get a sense of the pressure, the scale, and the sound that it makes.
This first reed is with a soft cane reed. This is a nice hardness for a reed. It has a good range, and being in that 30 inches of watermark, I can play this one for half an hour to an hour pretty steadily. And I have replaced it with a medium hard reed. This one's hard to even just keep running. I would be exhausted trying to keep this going for more than 10 or 15 minutes, and I'd probably want to be attacking it with a little bit of sandpaper and maybe even a tiny bit of a razor blade on it. It's I don't think anybody can play, or an intermediate piper can play in that 40 inches range for very long. This next one is the first of the synthetic reeds, and this is a Surefire. Right away I noticed that it does have a little elastic band on the reed, which usually you can slide up the reed a little bit to ease the pressure off in terms of blowing. But I'm going to play this one pretty much straight as it comes out of the box for comparison, so we'll see how it goes. Even though the pressure range on this one is quite nice to work with, I might call it misfire, not a surefire. I really tried a lot to not have it squawk and land on the notes awkwardly. Perhaps moving that elastic on it would take care of a few things, but certainly coming out of the box, this reed does not perform adequately. That was pretty soft without looking at the manometer, and it wanted to really squeak on the low hand, which usually means the reed is very soft, maybe even too soft. Perhaps it needs the drones on to work properly. Mclaren synthetic reed. It also has an elastic that can be slid up over the reed itself. This one probably had the nicest pressure operating range and not a lot of hiss in the high hand. It sounded fairly balanced, and I was going to play a little bit with that elastic later to see if I could draw a little bit more sound out of it, but I'm relatively pleased with this one so far. We're into the Clan Rye synthetic reeds, and this first one is going to be the yellow, which is the softest of the three, and supposedly the easiest to blow, and we'll see how that sound goes.
The pressure on this one certainly is a little bit lower than the other ones have been, but it's having a bit of trouble dropping back and forth between the high hand and the low hand, and it may not be picked up on the camera recording or on the YouTube compression, but there's a little bit of a hiss on the high hand that's quite audible as well.
So I have the red Clanrye reed in here, which is the medium strength Clanrye reed.
Well, the pressure on this one is a little bit higher than the yellow, but obviously the sound is way out on this. I have not taped the chanter, so it sounds quite foul, and it's just not that much of an improvement over the yellow one. I still am hearing that yellow hiss sound on it.
The Clanrye blue, which is the hardest blowing of the three chanter Clanrye reeds, and we'll see how this sounds.
Well, you can see I'm struggling to keep the pipes going with the high pressure required on this one here. It sounds awful. It does require a lot of serious retuning as well. And I'm hearing that hiss. And I'm going to see if I can tease that out a little bit here. I'm not sure if it shows up on YouTube, but I'm going to try to find a way to show it visibly on the display. I'm going to use Decibel X spectrum analysis on the iPad here, which will give us the harmonics and frequencies that the reeds are generating. It's not the display I want. I want to get the next one. Here it is showing the frequencies, but I can do better than that. And we'll move on to the last display, which is really good. It shows the harmonics from 2 kilohertz up to 20, and the color that you see there is the strength of the patterns. Now I'm playing a scale, and I'm going to play a high A to a low A, and we're going to compare the medium cane reed against the hard Clanrye reed and see if that hiss actually shows up in the spectrum. So I'm getting a nice broad range of frequencies here in strength. The higher the frequencies, you see them getting weaker. The lower ones are more audible, up to about 8 to 10,000 hertz. Now I'm playing a scale, and you can see the even distribution of the harmonics there, from the high A and dropping down to a low A. And let's compare the synthetic reed against the cane reed. I've got a snapshot here of the harmonic frequency distribution on a cane reed. We're going to focus on high A and low A for simplicity against the distribution of frequencies on a synthetic reed. Right away in this image from the Clanrye reed, you can see there's a lot of green on the screen. This green is kind of a hiss. It's sort of a white noise in between the clear frequency harmonics that the reed should be producing. If we compare both screenshots from both reeds, we can see again the lots of the kind of the green white noise hiss in the Clanrye throughout the entire spectral range. If we really zoom in on that area below 10 kilohertz, which is the most audible area that we can hear, again you can see that the Clanrye just has more indistinct hiss and sound in there that we don't want in a good chanter reed. We're going to use the Bra Tuner app on the iPhone to compare how well each reed gets locked in. We're going to compare the medium cane against the Mclaren reed. Not bad, nothing that a little tape couldn't fix. I've slid the elastic up the Mclaren reed a little bit, and it really wants to tune nicely now, so we'll see how well it holds the tuning without doing a lot of taping. Well, it's only 1 hertz off the cane reed at 479, which is pretty cool. And when I speed through the video here to show you, it's very locked in on the scale. I would have to tape down the high G a little bit, but the rest of it is really locked in nicely. So one of the benefits of these synthetic reeds is their ability to play in cold and damp conditions. So I left my pipes outside for half an hour, 8 degrees. They had been tuned and played inside and had moisture in them, so we'll compare how they both start up and sound. Definitely has flattened in the period of time that it has been sitting outside. Well, you can see that that's tuning pitch was pretty much right on at the start, and it struck and then played all the notes. I didn't play for half an hour to see how they performed wet, but certainly on the striking everything was working as it should. Here I have my nice little aluminum Mark D whistle here, also available in plastic and wood. I listen to these reeds a lot outside of this video as well, and I'm trying to sort of show the highlight. But really what came out of it is that this sound of the Clan Rye and the Surefire reeds just really weren't up to performance expectations. The Mclaren was quite close. It both was very good in a chanter without a lot of taping. It started and stopped nicely in terms of operating pressure, and it worked in a great range of temperature and humidity conditions, which, what more could you ask? Is it better than average cane reeds? I think it's actually very equivalent. I think it's a great substitute for a cane reed, and I would love to sneak it into band practice and fool people with it and see if they can tell what the difference is. You can get 100% plastic pipes. Dunbar polypencos are great, and the sound is really quite good. And as we all know, the ornamentation on bagpipes, the ferrules and the silver and the detour, doesn't change the sound. The sound really comes from the combination of the bag, stock shapes, the reed configuration, and your own skill set, your own level of playing. I'm going to finish with video comparing the sound of the Mclaren and the sound of the medium soft cane reed. And you listen to it with your eyes closed and see if you can tell much different. The layman wouldn't know. An advanced piper, perhaps. Thank you for watching, and I hope you found this useful.